Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Elliot and you are watching Long Way to Pro. Today's video is going to be an in the bag, 100% Lone Star bag here. I'm really excited to bring this to you, so let's just jump right into it. Start with my putting putters. I have two putters that I'm trying to figure out which one I like better. Both of them are the Bull Snake. The Bull Snake is a very overstable throwing putter, but as a putting putter, it feels really good in my hand and it has the cleanest release out of all of the ones I've tested. So I'm going with the Bull Snake for now, but it's possible that I'll try putting with others. But for now, the Bull Snake, really reliable putting disc, wind resistant, and it just comes out really clean. So really like the Bull Snake. Throwing putters, I have 3 of them. Let's try to get them out here. So my 3 throwing putters are, I have a V1 Dillo. This is a Berg replacement. I used to throw the Berg. I like this a lot better. It feels more comfortable in the hand. It's not as stable, but it's just a really great point and shoot, kind of soft bid kind of disc. Next up I have a Bravo penny putter. This thing is pretty flippy, but I can just kind of put it on a hyper flip. It'll stand up, ride straight, maybe a slight turn to the right, but then it'll fade. Really comfortable disc to throw too. This feels really good in the hand. I might also throw this on like some circle 2 bids where I don't really trust the Bull Snake as much because it's got a little bit more glide. Next up is the Copperhead. This is a bit more overstable than the penny putter. Same flight ratings at 3402, but this one has a little bit of a thumb track, so this is a really good straight forehand, as well as a backhand disc that I could just rip flat. It'll hold straight, maybe a touch of turn, but it's going to fade at the end. So have kind of this slightly understable penny, a very stable Dillo, and then a slightly overstable Copperhead. So fits 3 throwing putter slots pretty well. My approach discs, I've got 2 harpoons, a Victor 1 and an Alpha. The Victor 1 is more overstable. This is more of a forehand one where I want kind of maybe put it on a little bit of a flex, but it's going to come back to the right. Not a lot of glide, but it's very overstable. Really great for forehand approach discs, or shots I should say. This is the Alpha one. It's a little bit more domey, and so it's not as good for forehand, but I really like this one for backhand. It's got a little bit more straightness to it. It's not as overstable, but it's still gonna fight back at the end. I really like both of those. For my mid-ranges, I have 4. My Flippiest is a Lone Wolf. I'm not sure how much longer this one's gonna be in the bag. It's just a little too flippy. I'm gonna try to get my hands on a BB6 because I think that this is just a little too understable, but if you're looking for something that you really want to put on a lot of hyzer and it's always gonna turn to the right, this would be a good one for you. It's pretty decent for forehand, just like touch shots, like ultimate forehands, but the Lone Wolf. My favorite mid-range is the Texas Ranger. This thing is dead straight, feels great in the hand. This is like a narrow diameter mid. Actually, all of these are kind of narrow diameter. They're not quite as wide as Innova or Discraft's flagship mid-ranges, but one that you can put on a touch of hyzer. It'll stand up, slight turn, but some fade at the end. I really like the Texas Ranger. Next up is the Midi. This is a direct Crow replacement. I used to love the Innova Crow. This thing does exactly the same thing, but it's a touch more glide, maybe a little bit straighter, but it still has that overstable finish at the end. Last one is the Walker. The Walker is very overstable. This is an Alpha plastic, and I really like the feel of this thing. Forehand, I don't like the way it feels in my hand. It just kind of, this bead digs into the webbing of my hand here a little bit, but backhand, absolutely love this thing. It's a beefcake. This is probably the most overstable mid I've ever thrown, and it's amazing. All right, my favorite slot in the bag is the fairway drivers, and Lone Star has some really great fairway drivers. Starting off with the Mockingbird, this is a distance driver that feels almost like a mid-range. This is a 7-speed fairway driver, but this thing goes so far, and its flight is just amazing. I have no idea what they did with this disc that makes it so good, but this is probably the best fairway driver I've ever thrown in my life. I really, really love this Mockingbird. Next up is the DISCS. This is a bit more stable, but super comfortable in the hand. This is just a really reliable disc. It's a bit domey, so I only throw it on backhands, but this is basically a faster, more stable Mockingbird. They feel pretty similar in the hand. This is just a really great, reliable fairway driver. I've got two lariats. I've got a Bravo and a Founders edition. The Founders, I think, is a little bit more stable, but they basically do the same thing. They've got slightly different feels, so experimenting which one I like the most. I really like the feel of this Bravo one right now, but since it's the winter, the gummier plastic is going to feel better anyway, so once it heats up a bit, I may find myself going towards this one more because it'll be a little bit stiffer, but I really, really like the lariats. They're super comfortable, very straight, very controlled. Alright, I have two Mad Cats. This one is Alpha, this one is Bravo. The Alpha is very stiff, but this thing is like a hyzer flip disc. A little bit more stable than the lariats, but not as stable as this Bravo, so it fits perfectly in between. I can kind of hit this flat and it'll turn, but it's going to fight out of it the entire way, which is really, really unique. I really, really like it. And then this Bravo one is like almost as overstable as like a seasoned Firebird. I wouldn't throw it forehand because it does have some dome, but this thing is overstable, but it glides. I really like the feel of this Bravo one. This Bravo one is one of my favorites. This Alpha one is a little bit uncomfortable to throw in the winter because it's so stiff. It has like no glide for whatever reason, so like it doesn't want to go very far, but it's a really reliable kind of straight fairway that fits perfectly between the overstable Mad Cat and the lariats. So really good complements to each other and the lariat. Last up is the Chupacabra. This is a super, super, super overstable 9-speed. This is more overstable than any Firebird you've ever thrown. Not as overstable as a tilt, but it doesn't have any glide. So good forehand utility disc, good backhand utility disc. But for shots that I would throw a Firebird on before, I'm finding myself going towards the Bravo Mad Cat. This one, I'm still working on figuring out how to throw it, but it's a good disc. I really like the feel of it. Super overstable. Last but certainly not least are my distance drivers. Starting off with like the control distance, I have a Tumbleweed. This is flippy, but a great roller disc. I can throw this basically with a touch of hyzer, maybe even flat, and it turns into a roller. So that's mostly what I'm throwing this for. I'm not trying to get air shots with it really, but I'm trying to work the roller into my game, and this has done some really good things for me. That's Alpha Plastic. This is also Alpha Plastic. It's the curl. This has some sneaky stability to it. It is understable, but I really like putting this thing on hyzer, kind of letting it turn, and then it will kind of fight out of it the entire way. So I do like the Alpha curl. Hopefully it softens up in the summer, because right now it's really stiff and it's just not super comfortable to throw, but I think once it gets into the summer months, this thing will be a go-to for me as far as like really long distance shots. I have three Warbirds. The Flippiest is this Bravo one. This is a absolutely beautiful purple Bravo Warbird. It came with a little bit of a warp on the flight plate, but that I think was perfect because it kind of made it flippy, and these two are very overstable, so I needed that flippy Warbird. This is definitely my distance Warbird. If I have a shot that I need more distance on, I'm reaching for this one with a curl. Alright, my two other Warbirds, I have this stock stamp and this artist stamp. The stock stamp is domier. This is probably more of a backhand one. I'm never going to throw this one on forehand just because of how domey it is, but it has a little bit more glide than this blue one, but it's just as stable, so a little bit more distance. In a headwind it will flip over, but this thing bombs. This blue one is my most overstable one. This is my forehand Warbird. If I needed a forehand Warbird, still working on seasoning it in, but right now it's super overstable. Alright, last disc in the bag is this Bravo Tombstone. This is my forehand overstable driver. much like the Chupacabra, it is incredibly overstable, but it's just a little bit faster. It's going to give you a little bit more skip. So there are situations in which you will want the Tombstone more than the Chupacabra just because it's a little bit faster. But despite being a 13 speed, it's really comfortable in the hand. It's like a slightly, not wide, what's the opposite of wide? Narrower rim for 13 speed. So it feels kind of like a Warbird. I think that the difference between these is pretty negligible, but it's just a good utility disc. Throwing it backhand, forehand. I do like the Tombstone, but it doesn't have a ton of uses. So yeah, so those are all the discs I have in the bag. Just a couple of other things I have in here. I have a disc retriever. I have a Lone Star chalk bag. It's got some nice chalk dust, so I can do like Ganonburg wind read, you know. I got a ton of minis in here just in case I lose one, which has happened before in a tournament, or if anybody else needs one. I've got a rangefinder in here, a couple markers in case I need them, and then just like a bunch of towels and a couple other discs in there that I could pull out if I were to lose some, but don't need to talk about those. So yeah, that's what I have in my bag. I'm really excited for this season to represent Lone Star and to represent Disc Thrift. I'm super excited to get out there and to compete again and hopefully take that next step towards the long way to pro. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope to see you in the next one.